Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Seeker of the Unknown. Um, it's been a very interesting week, to say the least, um, with a lot of things that have been transpiring, happening um, throughout the world, and uh, just unfolding as we've been seeing things come to fruition um, regarding the uh, the uncovering of a lot of ancient technology, a lot of uh, ancient knowledge as far as old manuscripts, old texts that are being translated or rediscovered um, that were translated in an incorrect way. Uh, uh, a lot of manuscripts that we thought were correct turned out to be incorrect or just mistranscribed uh, off by wording or certain words, phrases, uh, and, and many times just a lot of it has just been taken out of context entirely. Um, and anyway, I wanted to do this episode on the, uh, the on based on the analogy of a great reset. What have we noticed or seen or have uh, come to understand as far as these resets that have happened? Uh, it seems like every 6 to 12,000 years, something seems to be causing uh, these great resets throughout cultures and societies and the earth, uh, and causing great catastrophes to happen that have annihilated, just totally wiped out civilizations and caused them to become, uh, or just to be in a set of uh, restarting civilization somehow. Uh, and we see it a lot of times. You have these great uh, destructive uh, natural disasters, volcanoes, earthquakes, uh, comets, meteors. Uh, you see it in great floods that have happened, um, and uh, it seems like, is it something that is a naturally occurring effect, or is this something that has been planned in order to give humankind this kind of reset button? Because either something is amiss or something has planned the demise of these civilizations on Earth in order to progress them at a manner that is befitting of what they would like to have happen. Um, and I just wanted to see what everybody's thoughts were on this. I know you have seen Graham Hancock's show, uh, Ancient Apocalypse, on Netflix. I love Graham Hancock. He's one of my favorite independent researchers and journalists. I have been following him since his time on Gaia, um, and uh, he has just been totally uh, swept under the rug or tried to be debunked by the mainstream scientist community and the mainstream uh, uh, academic fields and universities, claiming that his theories are so outlandish that he is far reaching to try and prove these narratives that we see so many times um, throughout these cultures that have been hidden from us. Um, but is it in fact something that he is uncovering that is revealing truths of what we are now seeing and understanding that the mainstream academics do not want us to um, reveal or to understand or have knowledge of, because if we bring this stuff out into the open, then we have to rewrite the historical narrative that has been pushed upon us by the academics who are in control of the historical aspects of who we are and where we come from. And they no longer have the control over the insight that has kept us bound by their narratives for so long. And is this the threat that they have been trying to conceal from us for so long, but is now unmistakably and undeniably being refuted by so much evidence that is it has been in front of us for so long? Um, you have now this stuff that has come out about the ancient pyramids, uh, the ideas that Chichen Itza and Teotihuacan have been masterminded by the same architects who built the pyramids, the ancient structures in Japan, the pyramids that are all over China, uh, the Middle East, Europe, and even architect uh, uh, architecture that we have found in America seems to suggest that yes, these structures, in fact, are a lot older than what we are thinking they are. And not only are they older, but they predate the civilizations that have been here, um, and the uh, the societies that sprung up, saying, well, Native Americans came across, the Bering Strait, and that is where they come from. And it seems like, yeah, but they're not um, sharing any blood types with any other tribes around the world. Um, you know, the Native Americans cannot trace themselves back to any tribes outside of where they are. Um, and before I even get into it and start diving into this and bringing up a lot of questions, we're going to go ahead and get the intro going. And if you haven't already subscribed and like the channel, go ahead and please do so. Show some love and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the like button on Facebook. Go to X and like and subscribe the channel there. And we're going to go ahead and kick off this intro and get it started. I'll see you in a bit. Awesome stuff. So, welcome back to Secret in the Unknown. This is episode 47. Man, wow, this is cool. Going on 2 years already this December. Good stuff. But if you haven't already seen the podcast or you haven't been joining me for the past year and a half or so, um, I would just like to give an introduction to people before I start the episodes. Is that, me being an independent researcher and uh, looker of things that have always seemed to intrigue me as far as being outside of the box. The mainstream narrative of a lot of things of, why we are here, who designed us and created us, um, and what the purpose for us to be here is, um, and just questioning history of itself. I mean, we have always placed human beings as the tip of the spear, the pinnacle of humanity, and we see ourselves as this grand design of this Godhead, this figure that has been pushed to us to be able to say, "Oh, it's this deity that revere and we revere and we have to worship and give thanks to for this, marvelous life that we have been, bestowed that has been bestowed upon us." And I've always questioned a lot of narratives throughout my lifetime, just questioning everything. Being raised up in a religious home, and you know, having a narrative that has just been, pushed and pushed for so long. And as I said before in my other episodes, I am not telling anybody that their faith-based ideologies are wrong. All I'm saying is that if you have always felt that there is more to this story that just does not seem right, that the narrative that you are trying to understand just does not seem to fit, and you question things outside of that narrative, you are not alone. You're a part of a bigger group of people, a bigger society that has gone on to do exactly what I myself have done, and so many others, um, by saying there's got to be are missing here that we are not being told about. So independently researching a lot of narratives that you know uh, do not fit uh, with me personally. I have come across a lot of things that people say, oh well, they're rabbit holes, because it's like Alice in Wonderland. The rabbit goes down the hole, and Alice is like, "Yeah, I really shouldn't do this." But once you go down it, it's like it opens up your mind to this other whole other world that you are just like, "What the hell is going on?" And you start seeing and understanding things um, that you don't necessarily want to say is real, but it's like you can't refute the fact that the the facts are there, and the information to back up said facts, um, with a lot of things, it just seems to make sense. Um, and that could be so with a lot of people. They could be, this, it sounds good. And yeah, there's some fact based stuff, but can it really be possible that this is really happening? And I use it as one of the terminologies that I like to use, or one of the thought processes of how it became for me was, if anybody who grew up in the 80s remembers that movie with Roddy Piper, the movie They Live, um, it is just like that. People are going about their normal day, and they're struggling day in and day out to survive and to make meat, and just questioning life in itself. Why the fuck am I here? Why is this shit happening to me? Why is life like this? And by chance, you stumble upon these group of people, just like I'm doing now, and so many others, Graham Hancock, um, and Billy Carson, and these independent researchers that are out there, that are throwing this knowledge and this information out there to help people realize and wake them up to the knowledge that is out there, that has been hidden from everybody for so long. Um, and in the movie They Live, what happens is that he runs across these people that are doing exactly that. They are like a resistance to try and wake society up and say that you need to realize that what you are doing and the life that we are living is not what we think it is. It is not what we all thought it was. It is a program of this society that is above us, to keep us in control, to keep us dominant, to keep us obedient, keep us subservient to the ways of just working and bleeding and suffering, and just making it through life. And by the time we get to enjoy ourselves with that little bit of cheese or that carrot that's dangling at the end of the stick, by the time we get to enjoy that, it's already too late and we've already worn ourselves out. Instead of taking the time to enjoy and say, I can survive without having to be a slave to the system, that there is more to this. And in the way that they do that in the movie is that these people have identified these glasses that allow them to see reality for what it really is. And he stumbles across this and he puts them on and he's like looking at the world through black and gray. And it's like nothing is what we think it is. Billboards are like saying, obey, do as you're told. And he's looking through this magazine stand. And it's just like he takes the glasses off and he sees the articles, but when he puts the glasses on, it's like control, buy more, you need this. It's like mind control programming through all of these substances and these things that we see day in and day out. But the bigger thing is this: not everybody that he sees with these glasses on is human. And he's like freaked the fuck out about it. And he's like taking the glasses off, and this guy's looking at him, and he's like, "You got a problem?" And he puts the glasses on, and the guy's like a fucking alien, like a creature that he's like, "Wait a minute, like, is this real?" And he goes and he's walking around, and he notices that it's not just this person; it's majority of a people are hidden to look like us that are just deceiving us. And they have these devices and they're telling everybody we have one that can see us. He knows that, he knows the truth. And throughout the whole movie, he's trying to help people realize and wake up and understand that what's going on is it's all a lie. So there's tidbits that we see throughout, you know, throughout reality or throughout what we think is perceiving as reality of movies, TV shows, commercials, little things here and there that spill the beans, so to say, that desensitize us to what could be really going on. Um, and that's where I come into the point where I'm saying is I started going down this rabbit hole and this thought process of a lot of this stuff and realizing and figuring out that, holy shit, this is fucking real. Um, as far as looking into a lot of things with religion, medicine, education, uh, the government, um, military, uh, history, history in and of itself. I mean, now we have this, this bombshell of a fucking hydrogen bomb that just got dropped on us with the pyramids, um, and it brought to light the whole thought process that has been revealed to us before by independent researchers to say, yes, this is what we've been telling you. And it is in fact happening. Excuse me. And see that, a lot of things that people have thought were conspiracies are in fact being revealed to be true. Um, and for myself, it just validates a lot of things that, not only myself have been able to say, damn, I knew it. I always had a fucking inkling that this was wrong. Like, this just doesn't seem right. Like, it's just too fucking stupid. Like, okay, everybody just takes it because we've been told that. They tell us, that, you know, the medicine that we take every day is good for us and it's supposed to help us. But in fact, we're now finding out that a lot of stuff is just killing us. It's prolonging the, the sickness or the exposure or death. Um, and we are just facing the inevitable instead of them healing us the way we know we can be healed. Um, and the cure is not in the medicine. Uh, it is just something that they just string along to make everybody feel a false sense of safety and security. Uh, history. Uh, Is religion exactly what we've been told? Is it something that has always been the truth? And we find now that we have been lied to about so many things, uh, that it is becoming I mean, the JFK files being released, the MLK files, um, the UFO whistleblower testimonies last year with in front of Congress, and them exposing a lot of things that we have been discussing for years. Excuse me, and saying, "Hey, this stuff. People are seeing this. I've experienced seeing UFOs. I've experienced seeing things that I can't explain that have scared the shit out of me. And and I'm not the only one that has seen it or experienced it. And it's like, you can't explain what you're seeing, but it's like, what you're seeing is not natural. It's not from here. And for them to say, oh, well, it's nothing, it's just, light phenomenon, yada, yada, yada. And, um, these cryptids, that have been told throughout history, and civilizations and cultures that describe these beings or these things that we are finding out, why we are seeing them in these rural areas of national wildlife preserves or in uh, uh, national parks in America, and find out that, national parks, if you underlie these cavern systems that are uh, mapped out by whistleblowers who have indeed worked for the government, and said that these cavern systems match up precisely where national parks are and why people go missing in these national parks every year. Um, is the government hiding something that they knew about, which is why they decided to go ahead and initiate national park and these wildlife preserves, because of something that they knew it was either an agreement that the government made, or it was to protect and hide these things in order to further research them and progress the study, where the government was able to do secret uh, analysis on these things without people being privy to it. But in over the years, I mean, there's so many people that can go missing before people start to question, like, what the fuck is going on? You have the disappearances of people just vanishing out of thin air. You know, children. Uh, you have the sightings of these gateways or these portals that are being seen that open up uh, within uh, or over these places that have been sacred to Native Americans. Uh, and, there's so much that is, out there that goes outside of this box of normalcy that we have all grown up on. And it has led me to this point in my life where I study and I research this stuff, and I talk to people that have experienced these things, or I talk to people that have researched this stuff, or get in touch with people that have either been in this field for a long time, or people that have been in contact or have been researching this evidence and this knowledge for a little bit. Um, and that's why I do what I do by putting this podcast out, is because I want everybody to understand that I am not here to shove a narrative down anybody's throat. I am just here to be able to tell people, look, look outside of what you have been told, because it's not what we thought it was. There's so much more to what we have been told that is underlying the narrative that we have all grown up on. And I am in no way, shape, or form telling anybody that this stuff is the hardcore truth. And if you don't believe it, you are an idiot. That is not what I'm saying, because we have all had to persevere that one way in one shape or form or another growing up. If you don't believe in this religion, if you don't believe in this ideology, then you yourself are a heretic. Um, Anything outside of this is the devil's work, yada, yada. So I just want to welcome you. I want you to be able to feel free to ask questions. Please say what's on your mind. Express yourself as much as you would like. Um, and thank you for joining me on this journey. And I welcome you with open arms. So if you are uh, joining me on Facebook, I just posted on Seeker of the Unknown. Let me get this. Let's see, right? Yes, maybe it'll work. I'm going to copy this to the clipboard on the Seeker of the Unknown uh, site on Facebook. And if you want to join the podcast, please go ahead, click the link. I'm putting it into the comment section. Let me know, and I'll bring you on. And if you have questions, we'll have a discussion. That's what it's all about. So getting back to the whole thing again, I just wanted to give a big shout out to all the supporters and the followers of the page and the podcast. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me on this journey that has just been so amazing. Uh, and just speaking with a lot of people have supported me through this, and I really appreciate you guys so much. It's just been a blessing. It's been a wild journey to have these discussions, to hear people's insight and experience of seeing or hearing, the strange phenomena, or having their ideas on what they believe is going on um, with uh, this stuff that we just can't explain, but we know that there is something that is more to it. Um, so, um, hey, hey, made it. um, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It's always fascinated me to, know, uh, realize that, um, spiritually, there's more to this life that, uh, the ancient societies, the ancient cultures were really tapped into. Uh, they were really, really dialed into that frequency and that elevation of, 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 of being in tune with Earth and our spiritual connection to everything. Uh, and I'm so glad to be able to have that connection with my bloodline through my native side. And maybe that's why I feel it so strongly. I don't know. Maybe it's just because, um, my family. I'm just blessed to be able to have that intuitiveness of saying, if I feel something, I speak it, and if it's something that is, near and dear to me, or that I really have emotion towards it, I want people to be able to understand it and connect with that, because like you see people that are down, you want to lift them up, or you see people going through things, you want to help them, and you want to be able to elevate people's minds to progress them in a certain way that is like, you know, uh, hey, get on board with this, and don't wait, because it's gonna, if something happens, I want you to be able to react to it. And uh, as I said, with this ancient, getting on to this, these resets we see throughout history, a lot of times, these ancient cultures and the narratives, and we've only been given access to very small amounts of the information, and it's only based on those that want to give this information out based on what they choose to give us. um, we have always been told that Egypt, were these great builders of structures, when in fact these structures have been around thousands of years predating the Egyptians way, way after they had already been completed. And the same thing with the structures all over the world. These structures have been here for thousands and thousands of years. Even Göbekli Tepe predates the pyramids by at least 12,000 years, they're saying. And now we're finding structures that are hidden deep inside of the forest of South America that predate a lot of the structures that we are seeing now that are already being uncovered, Chichen Itza and Teotihuacan. Uh, and so if we are seeing these cultures that have built or are mass building these mega structures to house these civilizations that are in the thousands with technology that is not even supposed to be here. I mean, that this whole thing, I go back to the pyramid structures and seeing this, it's like finding, a Mustang or, an automobile in the time of the cavemen. It should not exist. It should not be there. Um, and we are seeing that these structures are showing signs of these mass uh, destructive catastrophes. They're saying that the pyramids seem to have been underwater for a long time, where the water erosion that they're seeing on the rocks is consistent with what you would see on structures that are near beaches or waterways. And the water recedes, you're seeing the same type of uh, what is the word? It's right on the tip of my tongue. Ah, anyway, it shows the same type of leveling of water that erodes. Sterilizations. I can't say it. My mind is just going a million miles a minute. But you know, it's showing the wear and tear that is consistent with something that was underneath water at one time. So uh, it begs to question that the ancient uh, uh, texts that speak of these mass floods or these catastrophes that happen, um, is it something that happened at the same time that these cultures around the world speak of that is in fact a historical narrative of a reset to destroy a civilization or civilizations that were on the earth to either get rid of the population that was here because they were either destroying or becoming too far advanced and not complying with what was being given to them. And two, was it to hide these structures that were power based, power driven by these societies in order to be able to say, um, we are going to get rid of the people and the technology that was here. And until said time, we will not allow them to be remembered. They will be lost to time until those who are at that elevation level where they are progressing and elevating themselves spiritually are able to understand technology that we have given um, to the past civilizations. Um, and those that are being able to progress themselves spiritually and become in tune with what we had planned for them will be able to progress and access the knowledge that the ancients had to better um, tune into the frequencies that allowed these past cultures and civilizations to achieve these great feats that we have seen all over the world. um, we've seen these uh, uh, natural disasters of these earthquakes that have just shattered civilizations, mega volcano eruptions that have just devastated and wiped out civilizations across the world. I mean, here in Nevada, we are not that far from Yellowstone Park, which holds the largest volcano in our hemisphere. And as we are seeing, this thing is starting to become very active. It's becoming very uh, uh, unstable. They are seeing a lot of activity in the region, but what are you going to do? You can't evacuate millions of people in that area. Um, I mean, where are they going to go? If it goes, it goes. It's kind of one of those things where it's like those who survive survive, and those who don't don't. This is what we are seeing in ancient societies. There are people who have cultures who have progressed themselves enough to survive these cat- catastrophic events. That if they have survived, they have progressed themselves enough to be able to rebuild or to maintain their civilizations. Yeah, good old train system. I'm gonna take it inside. It's getting dark. All right. So we see this happening throughout history of these societies and civilizations that are reset. And we tend to think that, well, it happened because, it was just an act of nature itself. Um, and yes, could that be? But it seems like a lot of civilizations at the time were going through these progressions of advancement. They were going through these progressions of technological knowledge and being able to uh, advance their civilizations to a point where it became unstable. We do know that there are artifacts that have been found all over the world that should not be in areas of, uh, of the earth that are at least millions of years old, and they're finding them. Um, there are structures that are being found in the earth um, that should not um, be it should not exist. There is a cave system. I don't even want to call it a cave system. I call it an inner earth structure that is in Russia. That a man who happened to find this opening in his on his land uh, went down into the cave system, and while he was going to the cave system, he noticed a vertical slab, a horizontal slab, and a vertical slab that was so massive that it was positioned and placed and laid inside of this structure. He said this has got to be something because this is not man made. This is not natural. And sure enough, there are videos that have come out to say that it is an actual structure. It is an actual facility of some sort that is in the earth that has been hidden um, by whatever you want to call it, a catastrophic event, an event that caused uh, a massive flooding, that caused mudslides to cover and uh, uh, hide these structures. We see this time and time again all over the world. We see it in South America. We see it in China. I mean, if you look at China's pyramids, just Google it, look up China's pyramids, you will see that there are hundreds of pyramids all over the plain of China, the continent of Eastern Asia. And, it's no wonder why we are being told one narrative of human evolution, human development, but they can't explain to us why it is that we have the genome sequences that we have. They can't cure our diseases. They can't, I mean, they say they can't, but they know that there's already cures for it. There's availability of them to do these things, but they choose not to. Um, when in fact it's like, our ancients, societies and cultures were able to holistically keep themselves alive. I mean, there's manuscripts of these beings. I mean, look at the Bible. You hear of Noah, who ended up living for what, 900 and something years, and his father, his great grandfather Methuselah, who lived for like 1,200 years or something like that. And you have Enoch, who lived to be of an old age. And you see this time and time again in these societies and these cultures of these people who live. And you know, I want to keep harping on this, but for those people who believe that the Bible is based on what was Jewish culture and narrative, do not understand that the whole entirety of the Old Testament was really based on other cultures. It was an adaptation that was brought into their culture from outside because of the intermingling of tribes, that the word of mouth of what they were taught was integrated into uh, the, the Jewish or the Israelites or the tribes of Judah, because Israel was not even it was not even a culture then. It was not even a country. It was not even a bloodline. They were called the 12 tribes of Judah. And these cultures were all over the world. And not only that, but they intermingled in with other tribes, Canaanites, Philistines, uh, the cultures outside in the Far East and Russia, and Africa and South America. Um, there are people who would like to have us believe that this religious narrative is the one and only true narrative, but they fail to sit back and realize that the narrative that has been told to us is actually far older and does not come from that set of society, is not from that culture at all. It's actually from a ancient Sumerian uh, uh, cuneiform tablets that were passed on through the intermingling of those tribes. So, I mean, the narrative of the God that they worship is not even the God of the Bible. It's a God of an ancient culture. And these societies that we see are far older. They are far ancient than anything that comes out of any religious narrative, because we know now that these cultures and the societies were actually adapting from this older civilization. They were taking this information and passing it on, and it was turned into mythology. It was turned into uh, uh, just a way of narrating, expressing a certain point to get a point across. Um, but if this was indeed the case, then why is it that now we are starting to see the revealing, the unfolding of a lot of ancient structures, a lot of ancient civilizations that were here that predate what we've always known, what we've always seen, what we've all been taught in school? Uh, and we now know that the reason why they hid this from us for so long is because if we cannot understand who we are as a society, as human beings, and the reality of where we come from and why we are the way we are and why we were placed here. I have this it's coming to pass where we are going to see a lot of things that are going to unfold within uh, uh, the scope of humanity on this earth, where a lot of things I think are going to be revealed to us that are going to be shocking in nature to a lot of people, but to the people that already know what's going on, it's going to be like, I fucking told you so. I knew it. And, people can't deny a lot of these things anymore because it's coming to pass. It's happening. And this is not the first time that it has been revealed. And I want to bring this up um, because I spoke about it on uh, my I think it was 2 episodes ago where I was talking about the whole agenda of uh, the progression of the great resets by societies or cultures or these elites who are in charge to bring about these destructive ends in order to make it look like a false narrative. Um, and we know that this is going to play out. We know that this is going to be a plan because it has been something that has been talked about for a long time. There have been whistleblowers who have come out and said that the government is planning something because of a catastrophe that they foresee that is going to happen, or they are not going to tell people because there's no way that they're going to be able to stop this said disaster from happening and save enough people in order to get them out. Um, there is a idea that has come to pass that a lot of this um, narrative of uh, using religion and using uh, uh, fear mongering to an order to order about the end times is going to be a strong narrative that is going to be played out, and a lot of people are going to fall for it. Why? Because it is an agenda that has been pushed and pushed and pushed. But you got to remember that narrative was not originally the one that was 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 constructed by the said religions of the world. They adapted this end time prophecy from ancient cultures. Yes, that is correct. Ancient Sumerian texts speak of these gods who came down to the earth that progressed and made humanity what it is, what we see now. Does that mean that we were the first of our kind? Yes. Does that mean that there was nothing on this earth before us? No, because we now know that there were pre Adamites. There were things or beings that were on this earth that were progressing enough that they were living in the world, they were living on this planet, and they were just not at that advancement where they could progress, that they could carry on further in the mindset of knowledge and information and processing it and sustaining themselves. It was kind of like bringing them up above an animal instinct. And it talks about these gods who came down that engineered us in a sense in this garden if you want to, which where we get the Garden of Eden in this bio. And it says that we will make them in our image. We will make them like us. They will be able to progress. They will be able to think for themselves. We will breathe in this life to them and give them the sustainability to be able to work for us. And as they do, we will help them advance. And you get this in the cuneiform tablets of the Atrahasis, where they talk about, Adam and Eve, and they talk about Satan. But you got to remember these gods, the original trio, okay, the original Trinity, Enki, Enlil, the two brothers, and their father Anu. The Anunnaki who came from this planet of Nibiru. We now know that this planet does exist. It comes into cycle every 65, I think it's 6,500 years. We know that it was in the signs throughout ancient cultures. It was around the time of um, the, the the Great Flood when Noah uh, actually, who was named um, uh, something different in the Sumerians because Noah was a biblical term. They just changed his name from the ancient Sumerian name that was in the tablets that predate the Bible and that whole ark story, the flood story. We know that they adapted that. So you see that story being told to different cultures, but in the Sumerian tablets, it talks about him. Uh, 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 Inky goes down. He's telling him, "Hey, look, I know my brother has a plan. He's going to end up flooding the earth. I'm going to give you the plans to be able to build this ark, um, and you are going to take the essence of every creature on this planet, and you are going to save it and repopulate the earth." And Lil comes down and floods the earth. Does this just destroys everything? And we know that An, the father, Anu, is upset with him. But past all this stuff and this whole narrative of everything, we know that they said that they leave the planet because their time of helping and progressing humanity is over. But they told those few they were going to return. And it says, the same way you see us leave, we shall return from the skies, and you will know by the signs and the wonders of what is going on. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Exactly. I think that the narrative that we are seeing that has been passed on from society through this religious controlling mechanism is a way that is going to bring about a a false narrative to get people. It's going to be kind of like that movie The Mist with Stephen King. You remember when those people got stuck in the mist and those things were out there and they were eating people, and then you had the people stuck in the store, and you had that one religious freak that was just woman who was just so out of her mind, that she believed that it was just God's will that the devil had brought these people were evil and they had brought on this destruction, and it was like the rapture, and it was the end times, and it was just for them to sacrifice these people in order to appease this, because they were all being punished for their bad ways because of what these people had done. That is what we are going to see. And we see these whistleblowers who worked in these high facilities, these high echelons of the government, especially one of the workers who worked with Werner von Braun. She was his assistant, working at NASA. And she says that during the time, the 5 years that I worked with him, when he was dying, she sat there and he told her, "I'm going to tell you some things because I know that I'm not going to survive, but I want you to be aware of it so that way when it happens, you know that you heard it from me, and I'm going to make you aware of it." She said there's going to be signs of what the government is going to bring about is the end time or the end game for human society. And the one thing she was saying is that they were going to bring about wars, and they were going to make Russia look um, like they were the bad guys, that they were these bad people. They were going to have these radicalists that were going to come out of these countries, which we've seen happen, that the Communist Party during the Cold War era. We are going to have these radical little sects of groups around the world, which we saw during the 90s with Gaddafi, with Saddam Hussein, um, uh, bin Laden, and ISIS and Taliban. And now we have this group that is coming out of the Houthis that are fighting, that are being backed by Iran. And now we are back on this whole thing with Russia again, making them look like they are, these superpowers. We have Russia, we have China, and they're trying to build this narrative that, these false threats, and usher in this fear mongering to the societies. And there, she said that he told her that the last straw, another one was bringing up these viruses and these pandemics and these uh, old uh, viruses that were going to come out and bringing that about and trying to fear people into doing things. But she said the last straw was going to be that they were going to have a false alien invasion. And they were going to use that. to their advantage to usher in and bring about something that was going to cause havoc in societies. Now, is this something that we have seen in the past? Uh, could they be ushering in something that has been planned for so long? Like I said, you have Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam is a project they were working on or still working on with this projection of um, seeing the effects of projecting holograms or imagery in societies to be able to get and feed off of what people are doing or how they are going to react to something. Are they going to be scared? Are they going to flip out? Are they going to be able to see it? Is it going to work the way that we want it to work? And that has been a narrative that has been tested a couple of times. Um, there has been the sightings of these cities that people have seen inside of the sky. It looks like giant buildings. People are like, oh, well, it's just a reflection off of, a city that's, a few thousand miles away, blah, blah, blah. And people are like, no, that doesn't make any fucking sense. I can see the buildings and I can see people walking on the clouds. It is going to be so easy for people to fall for a false rapture idea of people that are actually going to be abducted or people that are going to be taken. Or it could be a narrative where people are just being split into a different timeline where they can eradicate and have people disappear or make people leave into a time zone that, an alternate universe. Um, Or like I said, it could just be a whole scenario where they play this thing at their hand to make it look and say, oh, Jesus came back. All these people are gone and we're stuck here because we're not worthy to go. And they're going to build it up to where they start getting all these people and it's going to start turning into this big radical thing where it's a false narrative in order to keep the control over people. And then something is going to take place. But as I said before, the ancient texts that have been misconstrued or adapted through these religious narratives or these cultures, these ancient gods, these Anunnaki, the father, Ani, the brothers, Enki and Enlil, said that they were going to come back and they were going to reveal themselves to humanity. There was going to be a time when they were going to progress and come down and reveal everything to society. And I think maybe this is something that we are going to end up seeing because we are advancing and progressing at a far we're touching on things that we should not be messing with. And we are doing things to the planet. We are doing things to humankind. We are manipulating the weather. We are manipulating the population. We are manipulating our own DNA, our own genetics, to where it is corrupting the very essence of what these gods had planned and what these deities had done in order to enable us to become a better society and a better uh, populace for this planet. I mean, it sounds outlandish, I know, but if you look at a lot of the ancient stuff that has been said and you follow the timeline and you look outside of the narrative that has been told to us, and see these things that have been, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense to say, well, this could actually happen. Besides, well, this is what actually happened because it's like you've been regurgitating it because that's what they've been telling us for so long. Um, and when you look at a lot of people who have revealed a lot of this stuff and said, hey, look, this is exactly what is going on. This is what has happened. Um, and here's the evidence. Look at Bob Lazar. The man came out and was freaked the fuck out because of what he was working on at Area 51. And, you know, was saying, I worked on it, I touched it, I felt it, I seen it, I watched this shit fly around. I took my friends out there and I freaking let them see it. And he was like, I've been, hounded this whole time after coming out on this about this element 115, that was actually an element that was powering these craft. And we now see this said element on the periodic table, which is very, very crazy because now that validates exactly what he was saying. So if these governments around the world are in possession, and in possession of not only just technology, but are in possession and knowledgeable about history and the truth of what is happening, what is going on, and what has happened to humanity, and is hiding what they know about or is in communication with these beings, these deities, this information that is going to happen in the future, why would they share it with us? If they can save themselves, you see them building these massive arcs in the Antarctic, storing up these seeds, storing up this DNA of animals from all over the world. You know what I mean? Like, why would you do something like that? Oh, well, we want to do it just in case something happens. Okay, why not fucking give people a heads up and say, hey, this shit's about to fucking kick off. We're giving you guys enough time to plan it out and to do what you need to do. Why? Because there's too many fucking people. And if they can eradicate enough people to depopulize the earth, does it work in their favor? Of course it does. Of course it does. It would make more sense for them to go ahead and depopulize the earth, not tell anybody about any catastrophes or any, you know, uh, destructive ends that are coming, and just say, oh, well, now we have time to repopulate the earth. We have a lot of room. Now we can just do what we need to do because it's not so crowded. Um, and the sad part is that, a lot of people don't think that our governments are capable of doing something. And it's sad to think that that they would do something like that, but it has happened so many times, so many times in our past. And, you know, it's just those things you think about that just keep, reoccurring and just keep, you know, coming to surface. But as I said, it's one of those things that I wish that people would realize and understand that there is so much to what has happened, that there is so much to what we are as human beings and society, that if we can just get our shit together, if we can just freaking help each other progress instead of tearing our societies down and worrying about this physical aspect of everything that we have and that we have to control, that we as human society can maintain ourselves and be able to live on this planet the way we were supposed to be in harmony and not have to worry about war, death, starvation, that I think it would be a better place for not only us, but for our future generation. And isn't that the world that we would want to leave for our children, grandchildren, our great grandchildren? We want this world to be a better place instead of tearing it down. And by doing that, we have to be knowledgeable. We have to be uh, able to research and understand who we are and where we come from. Because if we don't do that, we are only just as good as the slaves that they want us to be. We are only as good as being uh, a, a dumbed down version of the people who came before us, that allowed ourselves to be manipulated, be controlled by those who wish to just keep us under their thumb. A good person who is knowledgeable, a person who keeps themselves informed, is a threat, because a person who's not going to go with the flow and say, I don't fucking think I'm going to do this today, this just doesn't sound right, is a person who is a threat to those who wish to control them. And that is all we're trying to do, is trying to make people aware of the situations that are going on. trying to make people aware of the things that are happening. So with that, I'm going to sign off. And if you guys have any ideas, any thoughts on this episode of what I've talked about, or if you have any thoughts about a future episode that you would like to see me discuss some information or something, uh, let me know. Hit me up on Facebook on Seeker of the Unknown, X, same thing, Seeker of the Unknown, YouTube, Spotify. Leave me a message. I'll get back to you guys. You guys have a great weekend. Stay knowledgeable. Question everything. Do not take everybody's word for fact. Take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Do your own diligence. Seek that information. Seek that knowledge. And remember, everything that we know is not what we've been told. And I'll check you guys out later. I will let you guys know when the next episode's coming out. Should be next Friday, 7 o'clock. And I don't know. We'll see what we're going to be discussing next week. You guys have a good one. Be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Any blessings.